Hey guys, it's Ian from the Gamer's Gaiden back with the second part of my horror retrospective. This time we're in the 90s and we're taking a look at Clock Tower for the PlayStation 1. This was released in 96 in Japan and actually came out almost exactly a year later in 97 in North America. Now for us, this is the first installment of the Clock Tower series. In Japan, it's actually a sequel to Clock Tower on the SNES, which came out in the early 90s. So, yeah, it's kind of weird in that regard, but you don't have to have played the first one to be able to understand what's going on in this one. They really do set you up well to kind of understand the plot. Yeah, this is a point-and-click adventure game, again. But unlike Hugo, I mean, for one, this one I actually do find a little bit scary. And for another, it's actually a little bit less interactive than Hugo's House of Horrors was. Because where in Hugo you were controlling Hugo, moving him around with the directional keys on the keyboard and then inputting commands for him to do. This, you're just highlighting items or objects in the environment, either for your character to move to or to interact with. There's really not a whole lot of, I guess, hands-on control of the character. So, I mean, that can take you out of it a little bit, but it's still set up in a, I don't know, a very creepy manner. So the game follows one of two potential lead characters, which I do find interesting. The way they determine which character you're going to be playing as is all based around a conversation with one person early on in the game, and whether you talk to them once or twice. That's it. There's no, hey, if you talk to this person the second time, you're going to be playing as this person instead of this person. It does drastically change the things that you see throughout the game. So I thought that was kind of neat. Plus, on top of that, there are 5 different endings for each of the characters. So whether you're playing as Jennifer or Helen, you've got, each of them has 5 endings, from D all the way up to A. I mean, obviously, D being the bad ending, A being the optimal ending. It's kind of neat. There's a lot of replayability. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to get through, particularly if you know what you're doing. I think it took me about 2 hours to get the A ending with Jennifer on my playthrough right now. And yeah, now I did have the benefit of the internet, so I could see the objects that I needed to pick up at what time, the places that I needed to go, whereas if you didn't, or the times that I didn't when I was a lot younger, you're left kind of exploring a little bit, going to different areas. So the game's kind of broken down into 3 main scenarios. Now, each of these scenarios are they'd be the times that you're investigating, as well as fleeing from the main villain, Scissor Man. We'll get onto him a little bit later. But you've got your 3 scenarios. I believe the first one is always in the school. The second one could either be in a house in the countryside, or the library, and then the final one ends in a castle. So you do, it's kind of the same, I guess, but the middle one will vary depending on actions that you've taken, things that you've picked up, things that you say, and who you're playing as. So kind of neat. The various endings and different options are pretty fantastic. They do change considerably. I didn't notice a huge difference between, say, the A and the B endings, other than A was a little bit better than B for the characters involved. But some of the others, like the C, D, I was wrong. It's to E, because there's 5, math, and alphabet. But yeah, so the C and the D were drastically different. Like some of them were just way out there things, and I was super shocked with how they explained the endings and had certain characters interact. It was actually really interesting, and it is worthwhile, oddly enough, to play through it multiple times to get the various different endings, because they are a lot of fun. So what makes this game actually creepy? It's Scissor Man, 100%. He's terrifying. He's kind of this like hunched over. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, say, like Leatherface. He's wearing a mask, and he's got these giant scissors that he decapitates people with. He like cuts people in half. It's pretty gory for PlayStation 1 standards, and yeah, unlike its contemporaries at the time, like the Silent Hill and Resident Evil, you have no way to fight back. All you can do is occasionally there'll be objects in a room you can throw at him and distract him, or like maybe knock him over for a minute, but he's going to get back up and he's going to keep chasing you up until the point where you hide, and then when you've successfully hidden from him, like he'll come into the room, he'll look around, and then he'll leave. The music like calms down. You get this like kind of like a calming like sound, and then the music stops completely, and then you can kind of go on with your investigations. Yeah, it's super creepy. And then if you stand in one place for too long, and then I think there's an internal timer as well, because I was moving pretty quickly, and he would still just pop up occasionally. You'd hear building intense music, and you'd hear the shearing of the scissors, and then eventually a door would open and he would pop in, and you're just like, what do I do? Where do I go? Like, how do I hide? Yeah, it's super creepy. I will say in the library in particular, which was part of my playthrough, there was only one place in the entire library to hide from Scissor Man. So I found myself having to constantly run back to the one spot. As soon as the music would start, all the way back, no matter where I was. It did get a little bit tedious, but it's still tense because I know if he catches me, it's done. I'm done. You've got to start over again. Yeah, and I mean sometimes when you're interacting with objects in the environment, you'll inspect boxes or like a wardrobe, that kind of stuff. Sometimes he just pops out. There are various places that he's actually hidden within each of the scenarios, and he'll just pop out and come after you. Now, I did say that this was laid out in scenarios, so you have your 3 basic scenarios, and then in between each of those is like an intermission in which you can travel to various places throughout Oslo, because this takes place in Norway, of all places. Yeah, there are various points of interest that you can travel to, speak to different characters that are there, and it kind of helps move the story along. It gets you to know some of the cast of characters as well, because there are, I believe, 10 different people, only 7 of which really matter for endgame results. Yeah, it held up surprisingly well. I mean, visually, yes, this is an early 3D game. Everybody looks super blocky. The voice acting is bad. It is. There's a lot of really bad dialogue. But, for something that took me around 2 hours to finish, that's not bad. That's not a huge time investment. I mean, it would probably take you 3 if you didn't know what you were doing. Just a little bit of extra time to travel to some different places and talk to some different people. But it is pretty streamlined, and I do find that when you're in the scenarios where Scissor Man is chasing you and you're trying to find those certain pieces of evidence and get yourself out of that location, you're gonna move pretty quickly. You don't spend. I thought I would spend a lot more time at the various locations, even the finale in the castle, trying to find the different items that I needed and the different clues to kind of solve everything. It still didn't take very long. I think that was the longest section, and it was about 40 minutes. The other ones were only 20 to 30. So with the intermissions, maybe taking about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes each. They're not ridiculously long. It's fascinating. It's part of a trilogy in North America. You've got 4 of them outside. Now, I do know that the 4th one is available through a few different downloading options. I think you can get it on the Wii shop. I can't remember what it was called. But it is available there, if that even still exists. It was available that way. And there are some fan translations that you can look up. So it is playable. You can get the full story if you really need to. But like I said, this one sets you up pretty good. You know what happens as soon as you or you know what's happened as soon as you take control. So you're not like, oh, I wonder what was going on with the previous thing. No, you know that there was a dude named Scissor Man. You know that the Clock Tower murders is something that was a horrible incident, and you know that one of the main characters, Jennifer, was the survivor of. And her guardian, Helen, is kind of trying to help her along and kind of recover from it. So, yeah, if you have the means, I know that this is kind of a hard game to find. If you're able to, check it out. Even if you want to just watch, like, a Let's Play, it's kind of worthwhile. It definitely is. I think the way that they handle a lot of things, the sound in particular, how it's almost always silent. The only thing you can really hear are your footsteps, or if you interact with something, you'll hear some noises, like some rummaging sounds. But for the most part, it is quiet. And then you get that, like, building intense music and the, like, shearing of the scissors. And then bam, he's right there, and it's super intense and scary. And then you get that, like calming, like, noise, that little, like, sound. It, like, crescendos, and you're just like, ah, okay, cool, I can continue on. And then everything stops again. It is super, super quiet. So, yeah. If you're able to, check it out. This one is a definite recommend for me. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll be back shortly with something from the early 2000s, and I'm even more excited about this one because I love this game so much. Again, something I think that's really underappreciated as far as horror games go. I could be totally off base on that. And also, maybe it's not that good. I am going to have to sit down and start playing it. But yeah, I will see you guys soon. Thanks again for watching, and see ya.